Hey everyone, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. For those watching on YouTube, you see the shirt. It's a Gopher football day yet again. Mike Grimm is going to join me in the Hanging Ron Johnson segment. But there's 2 more sleeps before Gopher football, people. I am super excited. I got my suit ready. I got to get the shoes ready because it's Gopher football Thursday. But we got to talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Why? Because nobody knows what's going to happen next year with Kirk Cousins. Nobody's going to know, or nobody knows about TJ Hockenson. But what we do know is Justin Jefferson is probably the reason for a lot of the things happening in Minnesota. And we're going to talk about how Justin Jefferson is going to make the rest of these dominoes fall coming up next on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey everybody, it's Ron Johnson. This is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Well, everybody know this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Just visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to make every moment more. And remember, there was that Gopher parlay out there, 7.5 wins. Bet the over, people. Trust me, I'm gonna do it. When I get a friend of mine's going down to Iowa, I told him go to the sportsbook, put 8 wins on it for me. Over. I'm betting the over in Minnesota. They're going to get 8 wins at least. I think 8-4, 9-3. I think that's the floor for the Gophers. But again, I might be a little bit biased. Again, I'm Ron Johnson. This is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. And today's show, like I said, we're going to have Mike Grimm join us in the Hanger Ron Johnson segment, voice of the Gophers, radio, play-by-play guy. You hear him on Gopher basketball as well, but he's the Gopher football guy. So we got to talk to him and see what's going on with Gopher football as we head into this game Thursday versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers. But as I bring my producer to the show, Sam Ekstrom, Justin Jefferson and the Minnesota Vikings are headed towards a career, life-changing contract. Justin Jefferson is looking for big-time money. You look at the other receivers out there. Justin Jefferson is better than all of them. So how much money should Justin Jefferson get? Sam, I don't know if you have a number off the top of your head, but I want you to think about it as I talk. When you talk about Justin Jefferson, what number should he get? Everybody has a thought about this. Here's some numbers or some people I'll throw out there to you. Tyreek Hill, he has a guaranteed $72 million. Davante Adams has a guaranteed $65 million. Cooper Kupp has a guaranteed $75. And when I go to Cooper Kupp, this is what I say. His total value is $80 million, guaranteed $75. But everybody was like, Cooper Kupp that's a team-friendly deal. So if we're looking for Justin Jefferson to start off as a team-friendly deal, we're talking at least $80 million guaranteed. That's a team-friendly deal. $80 million. When your status of Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson's higher, of course. You can go down to Stephon Diggs, 70 guaranteed, 96 overall. To give you the overall numbers of Tyreek and Davante Adams, because the guarantee just means like if you get cut, if you get hurt, whatever, here's what we guarantee you. For the rest of your life, you'll be able to walk away with $72 million. Tyreek Hill, congratulations. You made it. But he has a $120 million contract. I don't know if he'll see that. Davante Adams has a $140 million contract. I don't know if he'll see that. But the average contract, $30 a year is the top right now. $30 a year for Tyreek Hill. Sam, I don't know if the Minnesota Vikings want to just sign a lifetime deal with Justin Jefferson and say, look, we'll sign you for the next 10 years. That takes him, 35 years old. We want to sign for 10 years, $300 million, $30 million a year. That's a ridiculous amount. So how could they do that? Maybe you take it down. Let's call it 25 a year, which is A.J. Brown. But we still want to give you like a 10-year deal. $250 million for 10 years. $250 million for 10 years helps us out as a team. One, because values are going to change, blah, blah. With a guarantee of $100 million. You look at the 72, the 65, the 75, the 70 of some of the top guys. Justin Jefferson probably wants a guaranteed $100 million. Now, if he does find a way, if Rob Brzezinski somehow finds a way to do this, I think that's going to help out TJ Hawkinson. I think that's going to help out Kirk Cousins. I think that's going to help out all these Minnesota Vikings that are currently on the cusp of signing their deals. They probably can't sign these guys because they're like, look, let us figure out Justin Jefferson first, which that's the rumor that's now out. Maybe that was the part of this whole thing. Hey, we got to figure out Jettas first. Once we figure out Jettas, then we can get the rest of you guys taken care of. Once Jets is done, then you're done. Jefferson's done, then you're done. So that could be the reason for the stall. And if they say they want to get Justin Jefferson done before week 1, they got 2 weeks. That means they're going to probably get TJ Hawkinson done right after. That's why I say Justin Jefferson's contract is going to be the domino that gets the rest of this stuff rolling. But I don't know, Sam, is there a number out there? And what are your thoughts on that, on Justin Jefferson being the domino?
There's a lot to consider here. I do agree with you that there is some domino effect there because you got to figure out if anything's going to hit the cap this year. I would guess not. I would guess it's all pushed into future years. And what it looks like for next year. So yeah, I think there is some domino effect there. Is it front loaded or back loaded? How are you going to sort out the money? I've had it floated to me that Justin Jefferson might actually prefer, and this is more speculation, this isn't a sourced report, but it might make sense for Justin Jefferson to want a shorter deal because if he does 3 years, then he can hit free agency again, or he can get that next contract when the cap is even higher. And he can cash in again when maybe wide receivers in 3 years are making $35 million a year, closer to $40 million a year, because that cap is going up and up and up. It'd be interesting to see if Kwesi tries the long-term deal, because then you can spread the money out more. You can be more creative with the financials.
Correct.
Short-term deal, it's hard to sort that money around. But Kwesi also has never given out a long-term deal. He only likes the short-term deals. So how is he going to sort this out? I'm so curious to find out whether it's going to be the 10-year variety or the 3-year variety or somewhere in between. But if let's say it's just the stock, like 4-year contract or 5-year contract, I think he sets the record for average value per year, probably 31. 32. Yeah, probably over the 30 million mark. And guaranteed, I would think 80. You said it. I think 80 would be the guaranteed, maybe even more than that. But I think he sets all the records for average annual and guaranteed money.
I'd say you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. I didn't think about that. Short-term deal actually makes sense. If it is a $30 million deal, let's call it 30, but it's 90 guarantee, so like 30 for 3 years, 30 for 4 years even. So 120 million. So he has Tyreek's deal, 120, but not Tyreek's terms. Tyreek Hill is not a free agent until 2027. So Tyreek Hill has a couple more years left on this deal to get to 2027, unrestricted free agent. And I think you're right. When you look at the unrestricted free agents right now, and whether it's good or bad, I don't know if these guys are going to sign extensions to not be unrestricted free agents at this time, and then maybe there's something that we don't know about in 2027, but Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, and A.J. Brown, all because 2027 for A.J. Brown with the Eagles, he voided his 2027 year. It's a void year. He can void out and get out of it and re-sign the deal. All those guys, all of them, every single one is an unrestricted free agent in 2027. So if I'm Justin Jefferson, you're right, Sam, 2023, 24, 25. Maybe Justin wants to hit the market in 26 before the rest of these guys hit the market. Not to say these guys are going to change Jefferson's market, but maybe you're right. Maybe 26 he wants to hit the market. He takes a 31 a year deal, $90 million fully guaranteed contract. It's higher total guarantee than any other receiver right now, because right now the top total guarantee is $75 million of Cooper Kupp, 72 of Tyreek Hill. So if you think about that, a $90 million total, or even an $80 million total guarantee, Justin Jefferson would have that. So it could be like a 31 with a total fully guarantee of 75. That could be his deal with maybe the first year is all bonus. Like maybe it's even a 30 or $40 million signing bonus with like that Tom Brady type of year. He's only going to get like $1 million for the season, which then they can defer that signing bonus to the next year. So maybe he gets a huge bonus this year, frees up some space, defer the signing bonus over whatever, and then they can sign TJ Hawkinson. But yeah, Justin Jefferson, the rumor is right now that he is on the precipice of signing a life-changing deal in the upwards. It has to be more than $80 million. That's going to be my guess. It has to be more than $80 million when you think about 75 of Cooper Kupp, 72 of Tyreek Hill. You don't make those comments without it. But he's done a great job of not opening his mouth. He's done a great job of not asking for stuff. He's been done a great job of showing up to everything they asked him to show up for, coming to every practice, being out there, being a team first guy, gelling with Kirk Cousins to get ready for the season. He's shown them everything that they need to see, probably to say, like, because think about this. Rob Brzezinski, the Wilfs, they've given a lot of money to a receiver, and it's bit them in the ass. Think about it. Yep. So that has to be in the back of their mind. Like, if we give Justin Jefferson his money, is he going to turn into Stephon Diggs and hold us hostage and force us to do things with our quarterback when we don't even know what we want to do with our quarterback? That's what I think there. But I think Justin Jefferson showed them high character. He has the ability to do it. And not to say Stephon Diggs hasn't grown, because he said it. I've grown. I made mistakes when I was with the Minnesota Vikings. I should have handled it a different way, because you talk about the sickness, going home, coming back, forcing I want to be traded. There's a lot of things Stephon Diggs said he could have done better. And so he did grow from that. He was young, but I think money, they can say, is the root of all evil. And that's what I think they were probably wondering, like, what is this Justin Jefferson? Because he's been quiet, but clearly he's showing, like, this is me. I'm not changing. Well, Sam, now it's time to jump into the Hang Around Johnson segment with Mike Grimm. But before we do that, we have a word from our sponsors.
Let me tell you about the great new promotion that FanDuel has. The FanDuel Sportsbook, great partner of ours at Locked On and America's #1 sportsbook. NFL season is here. All you have to do is spend $5, and this is what happens. You get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed if you're a new customer. $5 down, get $200, and that's not all. Those $5 also earn you $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. That is all customers. All customers can get $5 spent, and they get $100 off the new NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. So now is the best time to join FanDuel. Easy to use app. Bet on everything football. FanDuel.com/lockedon, the website to visit for more info and to get started. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NFL season with these offers that you don't want to miss. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL.
Well, now it's time for the Hang Around Johnson segment, and I got no one other than voice of the Gopher football team. Week 1. It's no longer week 0, people. It's week 1. Gophers, Nebraska, this Thursday. Night kickoff. I will be on Gophers Game Day Live with Guardsy whenever he can show up. We know he has 17 jobs. But Guardsy, Pierre Nugent, we're going to have some guests stop by. Matt Spaeth will be in town. Looking forward to all the Gophers. But I have to start the week off. We started with Matt Spaeth. Now I got to go to Mike Grimm because he's seen it all. He's done it all. He's been there. Mike Grimm, thanks for joining me on the Hang Around Johnson show. The Ron Johnson show, the Hang Around Johnson segment. But Mike, last time you were on, we talked about win a pie for it. And I've seen a lot of, announcers, color commentary guys. I've done some stuff with Anthony LaPanta, LaPanta. And we've done some college football games out in the Mountain West or whatever their conference is called now with Nevada and San Diego State and so on and so forth. And the one thing I always remember is, like, don't end up that guy. Like, I love the Nevada fans that were tweeting to me during my broadcast because I was guessing the plays. It's a guess, but I was looking at the formation. I was like, oh, it's going to be a fade route to the tight end. I could see it after the motion. And fans are tweeting like, oh, man, he's like Tony Romo. This guy's good. Like, we got to get him next year. By the way, let me know, Fox. I'll be out there next year if you need me again. But Mike, I've heard a lot of people now on Twitter, because social media now can blow this up. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter like say some stuff, or announcers say stuff. It just gets weird. Other than win a pie for it, have you and Daryl ever got weird, or has it ever been a time where, like, your family might have said, like, Mike, I can't believe you said that?
Not on purpose. There might be times where you say something. And I have, and Daryl too, and Spencer on basketball, we have these 5th grade mentalities. So you might say something innocently, but then if you think of it in a more risque or perverse manner, and when you have the mentality of a 5th grader, you might laugh a little bit and say, "Ooh," we'll look at each other and go, "Uh-oh." Hopefully no one thought that's what we meant. The one time that we actually Guardsy and I were just hashing this memory earlier this week. We were at Northwestern, so there wasn't anything, risque or profane about this, but it's the one time that Daryl and I got the giggles on the air, and we couldn't talk because we were laughing. It was year one, PJ Fleck, that stretch of games where they couldn't score. It was really bad football, a lot of inside zone, just move on and get to next week. And it was at Northwestern. The Gophers lost that game 39-0. Mm-hmm. And Northwestern was putting in the subs. And so they had a left-footed kicker come onto the field, right? And I could, because he was left-footed in the position of the press box, I couldn't see his number. So on my board, I just list the starting kicker. You don't list a backup kicker. So now and even if I had listed the backup kicker, I didn't know for sure if this was him because I couldn't read the number based on how he was kind of tilted because he was left-footed and all this stuff. So I don't know why I said it, and I think people watching will say, well, that doesn't seem to be that funny. Why did you guys start laughing? He was a big man. Like he had to be close to 300 pounds for this backup kicker. And he's out there. And I just said, it's 38-0 now, and on to attempt the extra point for Northwestern, a rather large man. And that I didn't know his name. We didn't know his number. And I just said a rather large man. And Daryl started to laugh a little bit. And then Dan Robotham, our engineer, started to laugh a little bit. And then I got laughing a little bit. And there's nothing on the air now. And you can kind of hear us in the background, giggling a little bit, but not a lot. And so there's dead air. And all you hear is the PA announcer in the background going, the kick is good. Northwestern 39, Minnesota nothing. And so we're still laughing. And we have to get to a commercial break after the touchdown because I said a rather large man. And so Daryl finally composes himself enough, being the professional of the group, and he sees that the kicker was number 99. So he looks at the program and he says, that kicker, the guy who made the kick, and he says the name. But I'm looking and they have two 99s. One's a kicker and one's a defensive tackle. And Daryl read the defensive tackle's name. So even then we didn't get it right. So then I started laughing again, and I barely get it to break. I finally am like, this is Gopher football from Learfield while we're laughing. And then we hit the commercial and we're all just like, at that point, we're all kind of delirious because the Gophers are losing bad. It's a terrible game. Horrible weather, as it always is when we play at Northwestern. Yeah. And for some reason, I just called the guy a rather large man, and for whatever reason, it hit our funny bone. So I don't think there was anything, offensive about it. Although, if you're a large man, you might be offended that I called you that. But that was the one time where, and that Guardsy had the audio of it, and he was texting that to some buddies, and I'm like, we don't need that to get out and go viral, so let's keep that in house here. But anyway, that would be one, I guess, if you want a specific example.
Yeah, you never really know what you're going to get sometimes with a game. I mean, let's be honest. Well, this is a new football season for Gopher football as far as we're heading towards uncharted territory. There's never been a game in the last 6 years that Tanner Morgan wasn't by PJ Fleck's side, getting off that bus for the Gopher walk, warming up, giving the team a talk, and throwing a pass, taking a snap from center. Ethan Caligmanis is now the official quarterback. There's no more Tanner Morgan. Mike, what have you seen from him so far? What are you expecting from him? And justice because we're not going to talk about the season. I'm gonna treat it like PJ. This is Nebraska championship season. What do you expect from Ethan Caligmanis?
Well, I think he's got to be entering this game with a high level of confidence. He comes across as a kid who's confident. Like, I think he feels good about his skills, and he should. You've seen him. I mean, this guy's got a gun on his right arm. He can run. I mean, he was a high school hurdler and a sprinter, so he's got some speed. I think we'll see that a little bit over the course of the season, that he's going to be able to break, contain, and avoid sacks and do some of that stuff with his legs. But his God's gift is the arm. And I mean, it is an arm that if everything goes well and he progresses and he learns how to hit guys on time, on target, and read film and read plays, his arm's good enough that he could, if all goes right and he hits his ceiling, he could be an NFL quarterback. He really could. So that said, there's a long ways from being playing in your 7th college game on opening night of your second full season to being in the NFL. So what do you see in between there? I think his confidence level's high for a number of reasons. One, he's, as I mentioned, he's confident. But two, remember last year at Nebraska, the Gophers were down 10-0 at halftime or 14-0. I forget now. I think it was 10-zip. And they had given up points on the first two drives. Tanner Morgan gets hurt on the final play of the first half, and karl-anthony comes in, and the whole team looks different. He's got him going. He scored 20 straight points, and they go in and win that game. So against that team, he had success. So one, he's got to feel pretty good about that. Obviously, there's new coaches, new coordinators, a new scheme. It's a 3-3-5. There's different things, but I'm a believer in if you have success against someone, you feel good about that, you can repeat that success. And then too late in the year, he was good. I mean, he was freshman of the week in the Big Ten. In that win at Wisconsin. Wisconsin was a top 10 defense last year. That was their saving grace because offense, they couldn't do much, the Badgers. And he went in and threw for 319 yards and had the game-winning touchdown with under 5 minutes to go and was freshman of the week in the Big Ten and also started the bowl game at Yankee Stadium hot before he got injured in that game. So I think the beauty of it is for him, I think he's got to feel confident and good about himself going into this game on Thursday.
Yeah, and PJ Fleck talked about, because of course we were, the PJ Fleck show every Tuesday, Wednesday on Fox 9. You could check PJ Fleck out. And PJ Fleck joined us at the State Fair, and he talked highly of Darius Green. Everybody's talking about Tyler Nubin, but it was time to find another safety because of the exit of Howden. You also had Terrell Smith hit the NFL. And Darius Green is a guy that he said it's caught everybody's eye during camp and will be starting opposite Tyler Nubin. What have you seen or looking forward to with Darius Green?
Well, and remember, Green also had a nice kind of what I would call a breakout game at Wisconsin. Remember, Nubin, was it a hand injury, I think, in the Iowa game the week before, did not play in that game or the bowl game. So Darius Green was able to, to do some things. In fact, they shuffled around. If you remember in that Wisconsin game, they had Beanie Bishop at a spot too, and they had to shuffle Darius Green around because they felt so strongly about how good he was playing. They put him into the spots where there was going to be bigger test, and he played in the bowl game, had a big fourth down stop late in that game, if you remember, on a little swing pass. It ended up being a 2-yard loss. If he doesn't make that tackle, who knows where that game goes? Gophers got the ball back, and pretty much that was the game. So I think they love him. I think he's got high upside. There'll probably be some growing pains. Look, he's a guy who probably was going to be a starter last year. And then because of COVID and extra years and all that, Jordan Howden, got to come back for that fifth year. I mean, Jordan Howden started 5 years. There was no red shirt there, but the extra year he got to, due to COVID was last year. Darius Green was probably the guy that was going to start last year. So this isn't like just a greenhorn, coming in. This is a guy that probably should have been playing last year, would have been playing last year if not for the COVID rules. And now he's finally going to get his chance. So he's kind of got that weird thing PJ's talked about. There's many guys on this team that kind of got that weird thing that they've been around. They know the culture. They don't have a lot of playing experience, but they have experience, if that makes sense. And there's a bunch of those guys. Now, I think the COVID thing was part of it, right? I mean, even karl-anthony, going back to him, he's a third-year player, right? This isn't like just a sophomore. He's been in the program for 3 years and, has been around the block. And Darius Green falls in that same category.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at this roster and see the years in college, years at Minnesota, and years left. It is one of the most perplexing things I've ever seen in my life. Like you said, Darius Green is going to be a new name this year, but he's been here for 3 years and has 3 years left. Like he's in that COVID, like, hey, I redshirted, I've been here, my other year doesn't count. And now as a redshirt sophomore, is my third year. I've been here for 3 years, my fourth year. I have 3 years left. I have a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth year. You look at Chris Altman-Bell, this is year 7.
Year 7.
So when you talk about the other receivers, and of course, practice off season, it's because Chris Altman-Bell wasn't healthy. He didn't get to do spring game stuff. Is there a chance, and a small chance, is there a chance that Corey Crooms, Lemeki Brockington, Daniel Jackson, and Elijah Spencer kind of leapfrog Chris Altman-Bell due to health concerns maybe, or due to just they've had more work with Athan Kallikmanis this offseason?
I don't think so. I think Altman-Bell is still going to be a prime target and play a lot. I mean, I also think this. The good news is that receiver room has been upgraded in such a way from last year, where it was, there were some struggles. Let's face it, last year. No knock on anybody that was involved with that, but it just was. I think they've upgraded that level. That I think it's nice that Autman-Bell can, I don't want to say he's going to just kind of slither in or just kind of, take it slow. But if that does turn out to be the case, they can take that. He doesn't have to be a star Thursday night. Now, look, if he goes and catches 9 balls and a couple touchdowns, beautiful. But if he doesn't, there's talent there where guys, and you throw Spanford in there as a pass catcher as well. And I think we'll see some formations where he'll even line up, wide. We saw that some last year. I think we'll see more of it. So I think Autman-Bell's in a good spot. He's probably not yet at 100%. He's still not quite a year. Remember, he's right at 11, a little under 12 months, between 11 and 12 months. He hurt that in week 3 last year. And you know more than I, but it seems like a year usually to really feel good and comfortable. And he was just cleared to do everything just a few weeks ago. That said, I talked with karl-anthony on Thursday of last week, and he just raved about they're both kind of Chicago area guys, and just raved about the relationship that they've built, even though they've never played in a game together due to the injury to Autman-Bell. And I think we can't forget, you as a receiver, I think really appreciate what Autman-Bell does with 50-50 balls. It's as good as we've seen at Minnesota in a while, and I think Morgan. Now Jackson had a couple nice 50-50 ball catches late last year. Brockington had a couple 50-50 ball catches where, a quarterback just feels comfort. But Tanner Morgan, think about the number of touchdowns. I think Autman-Bell is in double-digit career touchdowns. How many of those were those? I'm just going to throw it up to his back shoulder and let him go fight. And I think karl-anthony as a young quarterback is going to say, that's going to be part of my safety valve. That's going to be part of my comfort level, a little security blanket that if I have a problem, I'm not sure what to do. The pass rush is coming. It's 3rd and 8. I got to get rid of it. I'm just going to throw it up to number 7. I guess he started as number 3. He's number 7 now the last few years. Throw it up to number 7 and see if he can make a play downfield.
When you say just throw it up to number 3, I had a flashback to college. I thought you were talking about me.
Well. Well, I would look, if you were still there, there's no doubt that would be the number 1 option, no doubt. But Autman-Bell started as number 3, and that's where I got thrown off. He's been number 7 now for some years. But yeah, if you were on the field, there's no question that Ethan would find a number 3.
Well, this game is going to have Gus Johnson, Joe Klatt, Jenny Taft. Looking forward to running into Jenny Taft. I love her. She's a Minnesotan, so yes. I know she's happy to be back in Minnesota to do this game. She'll be here tomorrow. I know they'll be interviewing PJ. They'll also be interviewing Matt Rule. This is the new what are you going to call it? The new Cornhuskers. Before they were supposed to be the black shirts. We're going to come back with what's his name, Scott Frost. I miss Scott Frost. Every chance I get a chance to say that, I want to make sure people know I miss Scott Frost. Scott Frost was the best thing that ever happened to Minnesota football. He made the Gophers program look great. So we're going to miss Scott Frost. We wish him well. But now it's time for Matt Rule. What have you heard about Matt Rule before we get out of here?
Well, all I know about him is his resume, and he's got a very impressive resume at the college level, especially, right? At Temple, he built Temple has been an interesting stop for several coaches. Many coaches have used that place as a stepping stone, and a lot in that Mid-American Conference. They were once in the Big East, but in that MAC, this, coaches can build up a team. PJ did it, build up Western Michigan, and then they got to kind of jump when the iron's hot. Yeah. And so Matt Rule jumped when he had the chance to a situation that wasn't real attractive at the time in Baylor. Now, Baylor was just a few years removed from, Robert Griffin III and Heisman trophies. And, when we were young, Ron, Baylor was awful. They might have been the worst Power 5 team in the country. They went years. Well, that might be an exaggeration, but they went years where they won one game in the Big 12, or went winless in the Big 12 a number of years in a row. I think they have the longest losing streak, but Art Briles went there. He built them up, and then they had the scandal and a lot of different bad things happen. Yep. And so I think Rule wisely said, look, I'm not going to sit around in the MAC at Temple and wait out another job. He took it, and then he had success. He had real good success there, so much so that the NFL came calling. He didn't have a great run in the NFL, and he was roundly criticized in Charlotte by people who follow football there. I don't think that's an indictment on his coaching. I just think it maybe wasn't a fit. He didn't have a quarterback, and in the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, it's going to be hard to win. So I like the hire for Nebraska. They're in a situation where they've been a stagnated powerhouse program. You're right. For Minnesota, that's great, I think. I think Matt Rule, though, is probably going to bring these guys back into one. I think already you can just tell by the way people talk about the program that the respectability part is back. Then the question then becomes, how soon can they get the thing turned around on the field? The big common thing Nebraska folks will tell you is they lost all those one possession games with Scott Frost, and those hopefully with a new coach will turn into wins. And Jerry Kill used to talk about that when you take over a program that struggled, you lose a lot of close games, and then eventually you win one, and all of a sudden guys get confidence and you win another one, and so that's probably got to be the track at it here for the Huskers. I will say in Minnesota's case, specific to the one possession games, last year it was a one possession game, and they kicked a field goal late to make it that, and they were up big at halftime, and Cal McManus came in. However, the previous 2 years, if you remember, they were both single-digit wins for Minnesota. However, the game at Huntington Bank Stadium, Martinez, the quarterback, scored a garbage touchdown late to make I think it was a 17-point game, a 9-point game maybe, or was it a 14-point game, 8-point game, something. It really wasn't a one-possession game. The Gophers pretty well controlled that. And then remember the year before, the Gophers had controlled that game in the COVID year, and Ibrahim's on his way into the end zone to make it a 14-point win, and he took a knee. Percentage-wise, you think that's the play. And so the Gophers probably should have had back-to-back double-digit wins. None of that matters Thursday night. It really is going to come down to execution. You've been around the program. The Gopher coaches are a little nervous because they don't know what to expect from Nebraska. New coaches, new coordinators, new schemes, 20-some new players. And I think a guy that can coach. So that's a little scary. I know why they're tight and, wondering, what to expect. And you as a former player know, defensively especially, they just got to, I think, kind of rely on their basics, right? The principles, be in the right spot, see what they want to do and eventually adjust to it. And Rossi has shown, a propensity to really do some great adjustments, as he did last year at Nebraska. Once they figured out what Nebraska was going to do with the backup quarterback, they basically were shut out for the last 3 quarters of that game, save one field goal.
Yeah, I mean, there's no RG3, but we do know Matt Rule has a very confusing offense sometimes. Like, he does a lot of stuff. He's gimmicky. He has multiple sets. He has motions. He likes to run screens with receivers. So I do understand that as well from a defense perspective. You have no idea what to expect with this team. Offensively, there's only so much a defense can do. If you watch Brian Flores, we saw that recently, his 7 at the line of scrimmage or his 8 at the line of scrimmage. As a quarterback, you just have to get used to, I love the video of Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if you've seen this, but he's telling number 34 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He walks up to the line of scrimmage and he points him like, you're not coming. Get out of here.
I like that.
So I love the fact that Aaron Rodgers knows the Bucs, which is kind of bad though. But he knows the Bucs blitzes so well. He's like, yeah, you're not coming. If you come, there's nobody that's going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And he knew the coverage, so he understood this is a safety. That guy has to get back to the flat hook curl. If he doesn't, I'm going to kill you with the slant right behind your back. So I love that. So, and again, Athan's young. He hasn't had a ton of experience, but, I think that's going to be the toughest thing is how does he deal with the speed of this Nebraska defense? Because I have heard it's a lot better, a lot faster. Clearly, Matt Rule has set a precedent to be Nebraska football to get back to where they are because they're playing the Gophers on Thursday night. This is their first Thursday night game since 2010, but the Gophers do have a 4-game winning streak against Nebraska, and then they had to play Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. They have beat them 50 times. So I think this is going to be he's going to have 2 tests back to back. And then he gets Northern Illinois, Louisiana Tech, nothing against them, not trying to hate, but nice little break before they have to play Michigan and then Illinois. But Colorado, Minnesota, Nebraska has a tough stretch, but being the 7 p.m. game, prime time on Thursday night. Clearly, they believe in what Matt Rule can do at Nebraska, but also that shows what PJ Fleck can do at Minnesota, and they really like this head-to-head matchup. They're friends, so Matt Rule's very nice in his presser. But Mike, before we get out of here, really quick, early thoughts on the game. Where do you think the Gophers stand? Win, lose, close, blowout?
Yeah,
idea?
I like the Gophers in this. I think that I think it's better. Well, as a non-coach, I think it's better to play this team, this Nebraska team now, as they're trying to learn some stuff and still understand the system as opposed to later, because I do think Rule can coach, and I think it's likely that this team will be better in October than they will be on opening night on the road, under the lights. Who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong there. I think the other thing is, you mentioned Kaliakmanis against this new defense. There is some similarity. The defensive coordinator for Syracuse last year, if you remember, ran a 3-3-5. Yeah. And he's now the defensive coordinator at Nebraska running the 3-3-5. So Ethan prepped for that bowl game knowing what to expect from a 3-3-5, the same defensive coordinator. Now, he was hired away from Syracuse and did not actually coach in that bowl game, but you know who did? You know who was the defensive coordinator in that bowl game? Nick Monroe, who's now the Gophers co-defensive coordinator. So I got to believe he's helping the Gopher offensive coaches. Hey, here are some tendencies. Here's what White, the defensive coordinator, likes to do. I worked with him. This is how it works. Here's what he wants to do against these looks. And so even though they're, in the dark a little bit, they have to, base some things on some knowledge and assume some things. And so, like I said, as a non-coach, I think it's better to catch them here. PJ said on his coach's show on the radio the other day that he would prefer to play them a month or two into the season so they had some game film to know what to expect. But I think they're catching them at the right time. I love the Big Ten opener. I think this is exciting. It's under the lights, as you mentioned, national TV, a gold out. Wear your gold, Ron. Make sure you wear your gold. And man, I'm really excited. I like the Gophers. I like the Gophers in this one to hold serve at home to get the season off on the right note.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Mike Grimm. And thank you for joining me on the Hanging Ron Johnson segment. Up next, we got the Daily 3. That's 3 questions. We're going to take about 30 seconds each today because we're a little long with Mike, but we had to because we had to get this Gopher intel coming up for the Gophers Nebraska Cornhuskers game Thursday night at 7 p.m. We'll be back after this. Well, Sam, I don't know about you, but Mike Grimm has me ready for Nebraska football coming to town to play against the Gophers. But before we jump into this Daily 3, I want everybody to know SiriusXM is a proud partner with Locked On Sports Minnesota and Locked On. You can download the SXM app yourself. And if you want to catch the Twins hometown broadcast, they're going to host the Cleveland Guardians once again tonight at 6:40 p.m. And they're trying to clinch the AL Central. It's pretty close. They're almost there. They're 7 games ahead of the Guardians. And they're going to play them 4 more times. If they can knock out with this short game span and get like all 4 maybe out of the 5, this Twins team might have a chance to really put a stranglehold on the AL Central. But you can catch every pitch of the hometown broadcast on the SXM app. Just search Twins. Well, Sam, now it's time for the Daily 3 questions. We're going to take about 30 seconds each. Take it away.
Ron, the Cardinals are tanking. If you didn't believe it before, believe it now. They cut the guy we saw in joint practices, their alleged starter, Colt McCoy, and they're going to start the season with either Josh Dobbs, who they just brought in, or the rookie 5th-round pick Clayton Tune. How many wins are the Cardinals going to have this year, Ron?
Actual wins that they're trying to win, none. Wins that they're going to win by mistake because there's going to be some teams that just completely screw it up for them. I'm going to say 3. I'm going to say they have a chance to get 2 to 3. But I like the fact that the Cardinals, their ownership, quote unquote, was under investigation. I don't know if you remember that with the burner phone of their old GM that said, he tried to talk about them, and then their owners came out saying that, we didn't do this. There was no whatever. And then this guy has a burner phone. Leads me to believe this ownership is not above cheating just to get some wins. And so I feel like that might be hey, Jonathan Gannon, your job is safe. We just want to go get Caleb Williams. I know there's rumors that Caleb Williams might stay in school because of NIL money. I think that's bogus. I don't care how much NIL you're getting. It's nothing like a $40 million contract from the NFL. And so we know Caleb Williams is going to come out. He probably will be the first pick to the Arizona Cardinals. When you look at their schedule, though, I'm looking at it. I don't really see, other than the Texans, November 19th, I don't see too many other teams that can screw up and lose to them because they do have a pretty decent schedule. The Bears could possibly mess up on December 24th. The Falcons, I don't think they would do it because their run game is just too solid. But That's the number of losses Jonathan Gannon is prepared for. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they'll get 1 win, 2, or do you think they'll go 0-17?
Something tells me that Kyler Murray, because that's what could screw it up, is if Kyler comes back and wins him some games. But something tells me he's going to have a quote unquote setback, and he won't be playing for them this year.
Yeah,
and you know what? He might not play for them ever again. Because if they're the top pick, they're taking Caleb Williams, and then I think it's trading Kyler Murray. I think that's the saga next offseason, the Kyler Murray sweepstakes. Yes, I think that could be in the Cardinals' future. I wouldn't be very comfortable if I was him right now.
What you got next?
Yeah, you've talked to Fleck. We just talked to Mike Grimm. Let's carry on the Gophers conversation. Give me an X factor for Minnesota that you expect to emerge on Thursday night.
Oh, X factor for the Gophers that I expect to emerge. Man, this is a tough one, but I'm going to go with a little bit of Ethan Calais-Manis and Brevin Spanford. I think Brevin Spanford is going to become a sizable 6'7", 270-pound X factor. The teams are not going to be able to figure out how to deal with him. I'm very interested to see how the Gophers use him. I know his usage has gone up every year. As we talked about the stats, in order to be the best, or not the best, but have a what you want to call All-American type of season. 40 receptions, 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's going to put him ahead of Matt Spaeth, but I'd say 55-5. He needs 50 catches this year, 500 yards, and 5 touchdowns. But I'm expecting him to maybe even do more than that. He wants to be one of the top draft picks. So I'm looking forward to Brevin Spanford, but he's going to need Ethan Calais-Manis as kind of a 1A, 1B. But I'm looking forward to them Saturday.
All right,
Thursday.
Thursday night. Gus Johnson, you said on the call. That'll be exciting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, the Vikings brought in, remember, Dalton Reisner for a visit, Kareem Hunt for a visit. Neither of them signed, and we are now 12 days before the season. So, Ron, is it too late for the Vikings to still make those moves and bring in those players 12 days before the season as the ship sailed?
No, not with veterans like this. I mean, but what I say is we hit to 3:00. So we got to 3:00 today. So as this is airing, it might be like right around this. It'll be before. Sorry, we're well before that. But 3:00 today, the Vikings have to cut down and get to 53. And then you start making offers for guys to join your practice squad. You hope the guys don't take better offers out there. When you think about guys like Thayer Thomas and some of these other receivers, they might get offers from other teams to, possibly have a chance to really make the active roster eventually, compared to the Minnesota Vikings. If these receivers feel like they're done, when you look at the offensive line, there were already question marks. They traded Vidarian Lowe, so maybe they are trying to, find some space for a guy like Dalton Reisner, as well as Kareem Hunt. We're not too sold on Kene Nwangwu, so nobody really knows. Everybody feels like Ty Chandler's the guy. So is Kareem Hunt the next better option as far as a number 2/1A, 1B? Because Kareem Hunt would be right there with an Alexander Madison if you don't feel like you're going to get everything you need out of him. Or is this going to be a passing team and Kevin O'Connell pulled the wool over our eyes and CJ Ham's going to become like a blocking tight end / fullback in the run game? And in the pass game, he's going to be the blocker back there catching the swings and all that stuff, but not running screens. So, I mean, I don't know, but I don't feel like it's too late. It's never too late in the NFL. Veterans can always pick up an offense, and this is what the game is about, picking up guys to make it work. Think about so many guys that have been traded right at the trade deadline or got traded right at the end of training camp and went to another team and had a great year. That's what the NFL is about. So I think veterans, you'll be fine. I think what they're going to try to figure out is who are we cutting, who's on the waiver wire. Because again, the rest of tonight is going to be scouring the waiver wire as well. Also getting intel from GMs that are friends of yours, like Kwesi might be reaching out to the 49. Hey, who are y'all cutting? Are you cutting this guy? Are you cutting this guy? Because I'm kind of thinking about him. So GMs are also talking to each other as well before the rest of the NFL has to see it. Or sorry, the world has to see it. So I don't think it's too late though. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think that both of those players might just not want to be on the Vikings because they're not instant starters. I don't know if Reisner wants to be Ed Ingram's backup. I don't know if Hunt wants to be in a rotation. It's more likely for Hunt that Jonathan Taylor gets traded and he becomes the new Indy running back. And he might like that avenue more than going to the Vikings. So again, it is a two-way street. Maybe the Vikings have had interest the whole time, and maybe those players just didn't want the role they were going to have in Minnesota.
Maybe that's a good point there. I mean, you don't want to come in as a backup if you know you could be a starter somewhere else, and that's the name of the game. But I'm Ron Johnson. I say I'm actually want to thank you guys for joining us today on the Ron Johnson Show. For those watching on YouTube, thank you. Remember, if you want to watch us on YouTube, just go to YouTube. You can watch, but also please subscribe. You just need an email address to log in and then subscribe. It's free of charge. Please do it. Also, wherever you get your podcasts, you can get it. And then the SXM Radio app, free to most subscribers, but you can download the Locked On Sports Minnesota network on the SXM app. You can take us wherever you go. I want to thank you guys. Have a great day.